ab- about John Nolen and Regent Street. So John Nolen, two projects in very different forms. John Nolen, as most of you all know, has just begun construction last month, and Regent Street is kind of just starting the planning and design phase. So I'll start with John Nolen. We are currently constructing phase one, which is shown on the map in green from Lakeside to Broome Street. And that will uh, take us through to July 2027. So it just started last month. They're going to be switching traffic here shortly to basically all the cars will be on the bay side set of bridges. So north and south, there'll be one lane in each direction on the bay side. Oh, sorry, on the lake side, while they construct the bay side. So all traffic will be on the lake side, and construction will be on the bay side, and that'll continue up until next summer. So there's going to be one more traffic shift here in the next few days, and then that could will kind of settle in for the next 5, 6 months or so as they rebuild those southbound bridges. We're starting to begin the planning for phase two and phase three. Phase two is from Nolen to Lakeside, and then phase three is from the Beltline to Nolen. So those will be just starting those designs, and we'll be having public meetings in the future on those two projects. And then also like to point out that as soon as our phase one project is complete, the Lakeway will begin their phase one project along the causeway, basically from North Shore all the way to Olin Park. They're planning their boardwalks and Lakeway Park installations. So that'll be in the summer of 2027, uh, and uh, and be wrapped up in the spring of 2028. So the project that we have underway right now for phase one along the causeway. Again, I mentioned the southbound bridges will be under construction here shortly. That'll take us to June. Northbound bridges so traffic will then flip over. All the traffic will be on the newly constructed southbound lanes, and then they'll start working on the northbound lanes and the northbound bridges and the path and shoreline. That would be the bulk of 2026 through spring of 27. And then we'll finish everything up with restoration and final pavements and medians in June of 27. So here's just kind of a quick cross section of what is planned. We really tried to shrink up the street design to make more space along the shoreline. So we got rid of the extra uh, uh, pavement width that was out there. We skinnied up the median and try to provide enough more space for some separation from bikes to cars as well as pedestrians to bikes. And this is kind of the cross section where we have the most room. In some areas, it gets a little tighter, and the path and the ped trail are kind of touching each other, and the terrace gets a little skinnier. But for the most part, this is kind of the cross section that we're using. And then along the bridge structures, I think that's where people are going to really notice a big improvement. Right now, the ped and bike area is just a little 8-foot cantilevered space off of the roadway bridge. And in the new condition, we're going to have completely separate ped bike bridges with their own space for bikes and their own space for path, separated by 2 feet of buffer space. And this is kind of um, the ped and bike bridge is, is pretty ample size to have enough space for all that movement. Over twice as wide as the current situation. The project also included some pretty significant enhancements to the two intersections along the project, North Shore Drive and Broome Street. And you can see here um, a lot of reconfiguration of the North Shore and Broome Street, which think I will show in the next slides. But one thing I wanted to point out here is a new path that we're building from Bedford that would connect also to Bassett along the east side of North Shore Drive and the east side of John Nolen. So this path here does not exist at the moment, but that'll provide a lot of connectivity with the neighborhood, different ways to get to different parts of the Cap City path that folks would be interested in. And we're really excited about that addition. The North Shore Drive is somewhat similar in configuration to what it is now, except for we um, really provided a lot of visibility and space for the ped and bike crossing. Really made the islands a lot bigger and more pronounced, tighten up the pavement width so that turning movements have to be made a lot slower and more careful. We've also added the new crosswalk in this direction to our new path along the east side of John Nolen and North Shore for that connection. Space, we also provided are trying to provide a lot of space for folks to stage here. As a lot of people know, in the summertime, when they're waiting for a cross green light, there's a lot of people that kind of block the path, and try to create a lot of space here so that there's space for staging and then space for people using the path up and down the trail. Another uh, small little item that kind of doesn't show up on here is we kind of raised the crossing for this right turn here so that it's almost like a little bit of a speed hump for cars to know that they're crossing a special ped area. And then at the Broome Street, we made some pretty dramatic changes at the Broome Street intersection as well. A lot of people may be familiar. There's two islands out here, typically or not typically existing right now, and it gets a little confusing where you're supposed to fit, and some of those islands are kind of small and uncomfortable for peds and bikes. So we turned this kind of more into a traditional T intersection with a very large median space for refuge in the middle when you're crossing John Nolen, and widened out the crossing again, connecting to that new path along the east side of John Nolen. So try to make that more typical and traditional and comfortable and visible, and a little more space for peds and bikes to cross. We're also going to be replacing the shoreline revetment along this stretch. So that'll be, this will probably occur probably in the spring, either the fall of next year or spring of 27. They'll be redoing all the shoreline, and then along the whole causeway. And then we've also introduced a couple of stormwater management solutions to try to help with cleaning up the water quality. Adding catch basins that we can, which collect sediment debris before dumping into the lake, and then adding some terrace support systems. Sometimes that's called like a silvicell or a green blue. These are structures that you put underneath the sidewalk and path to allow for the roots to expand and grow and thrive for the new trees. You can only do this with new trees. You can't do this for old trees, but we plan to have quite a number of areas um, along the causeway, and we're trying something new with this project and catching stormwater and distributing that into the silvicells and to help to kind of irrigate the trees as well with the stormwater. So we have a little bit of we have some silvicells kind of traditional like we've done in the past, and then also some new ones with the stormwater that we'll be kind of using for learning and comparison and seeing how the trees the new trees will grow in those different conditions. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. So that is John Nolen in a about a 10-minute nutshell. I'll now, I guess, I don't know, Jason, do you want to do questions on John
Yeah,
Nolen
why don't we
first?
do questions on John Nolen
Yeah.
first, and then we'll go to Tom on Regent, if that works for you, Stephanie.
Sounds great.
Any questions for Chris on the John Nolen project?
All right.
No questions. Yeah, I
All
think
right.
we kind of we beat that one dead in the past months with our media coverage. So maybe everybody's up to speed on John Nolen. So
Yeah, we do have one question in the chat though, just about the logistics. Are we able to share the presentation?
oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. If you send it to me, I'll send it out to the entire group.
Yep. No problem.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it. And thank you, Tom, for the presentation to come.
Actually, I'm doing the Regent one as
Oh,
well.
never mind.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I just
Double
always
duty.
include Tom because he knows a lot of the details on these things with the traffic. So if there's so Regent Street is a new project that we're have begun planning for the last 6 months or so. Ultimately, the background of this project is that there is a storm sewer system underneath Regent Street that is failing, which is causing when we know that we have to rebuild that storm sewer, that would be the opportune time to take care of the street and pavement and any potential changes that we might want to have in the reconstruction of the project. So right now we are planning from Randall Avenue to Park Street. There's a good chance that the blocks on either sides may get pulled into it as utility conditions, if they need it. But right now we're kind of just focused on the Randall and Park Street area to kind of get a good handle on what we're dealing with as far as a reconstruct. So Regent Street today, I'm sure a lot of people are aware, it's a 2-lane urban roadway with parking lanes and peak hour travel lanes. So those outside lanes become peak hour travel lanes during the rush hours in the morning and evening. So where we are kind of in the process is we've had one public information meeting, and we've had our consultant, Equity by Design, has been reaching out to various groups to try to get their feedback on on the street and some of the issues that folks have with the street, and kind of get a handle on what are the things we want to try to tackle with a reconstruct. And some of the things, we've heard is there's a fairly high level of pedestrian level of stress walking along the street. That's most likely due to the fact that there's kind of a small sidewalk space and a small terrace space, and then a lot of traffic, both for cars and pedestrians. And then crossing the street as well can be stressful at times. And then bicycle level of stress as well. There's no bicycle facilities on the street. And there's kind of no designated space, so that obviously increases the level of stress for the bikes. As with any project, we'll be using our complete Green Streets guide to help us along the way. And focusing on the modal hierarchy that is kind of outlined in that guide, and some of the widths and design guidance that is in there. Regent Street is a community main street in the plan. So what does that mean? It's kind of a destination shopping street, strong sense of place. The travelway is includes space for vehicles, multimodal. There's bus routes along here. There's a lot of businesses and deliveries. So that's something we have to keep in mind. And when we're looking at our flex zone, that's the space kind of in between the walkways and the travelways. So the flex zones, we would try to design them to support pedestrian comfort, business success, and then hopefully we can get walkways that are spacious enough for comfortable pedestrian activity. Regent Street is a pretty tight corridor. There's not a lot of right of way, and we don't plan to expand it, obviously. So we got a kind of a tight space to work with on the street. As I mentioned before, that one of the direct project needs is the storm sewer box underneath the street is in poor condition and needs replacement. So that's really driving it. The pavement is due for some maintenance as well. As we're doing the project, we want to take a look at the safety and crash prevention for bikes and peds crossing and using the street, increase their mobility, and try to really work on those pedestrian crossings. So some of the challenges, definitely there's a lot of different users in the space, businesses, apartments, events, and just a lot of traffic in general of a lot of different people. So those will be challenges to kind of make sure, I think everybody would say, oh, we need wide sidewalks, we need wide terraces, right? We need efficient traffic, and we need place for bikes and buses and cars. So all those things probably are not going to fit in that cross section. So we have to kind of look at all the input and try to make some decisions based on that. So as I mentioned, this project is not designed yet. We are just kind of starting the alternatives design. We focused a lot of this year on engagement and getting feedback. So we had a public information meeting. Our consultants reached out to a number of groups. We're kind of pulling all that together now, and going to be reaching back out to a few of the groups to kind of show the I guess kind of the summary of all that engagement, and see if there's any any disagreement or anything we missed one last time. And then the idea would be, based on that input, we would propose some alternatives early next year for the construction. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're kind of in that engagement mode. We're kind of wrapping it up, pulling together some summaries, meeting back out with a few of the bigger groups. We'll be developing some conceptual alternatives and having a public meeting early 2026. Hopefully we'd be able to pick an alternative in 2026 and start working on final design in late 2026. And if that requires some tests or demonstration projects, we would implement that maybe next summer as well, if we need to. So things like, people might be familiar with Tom and his group tested getting rid of the peak hour lanes on Willie Street over the past months, and stuff like that is possible on this street as well. Some kind of demonstration project potentially. We hope to have the design kind of wrapped up at the end of 2026 for bidding and construction in 2027. However, that's all dependent on what Brian was talking about with the North-South BRT and how that gets funded. If that gets funded at a certain time, that's going to go. So we wouldn't do Regent Street and Park Street together. Park Street's part of the North-South BRT. So we'll kind of tentatively looking for construction here in 2027, but that's highly dependent on what happens with the BRT, and it may have to get delayed. Last slide here, I just have myself and Tom, and Andy Zwig is a principal engineer in our section. He's working heavily with North-South BRT and Regent Street. And then we have our website, of course, that has all our projects on there, and various social ways to get input from the city.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Chris.
The question, Stephanie, in the chat too, first
Yep.
up. Yeah, just how old is the aging stormwater conduit under Regent?
That's a great question. I think it's from the 20s. It's a big storm box culvert that's under the south half of the street. Yeah, pretty old.
All right, Chuck.
Thanks, Stephanie. Chris, I'm excited about the possibilities here. I actually have two questions. One, is one of the alternatives that you're considering parking protected bike lanes on the street, if it's possible to eliminate the rush hour parking restrictions? I feel like that might go a long way towards reducing the pedestrian level of stress while also providing facilities for bicycles without actually having to require any more space.
Parking protected bike lanes. So yeah, that we could look at that. We're still developing the alternatives, so I don't think I've seen that. We might have had something sketched up for that, but we can certainly take a look at it.
Yeah, great. And the other question is, I know that I'm sure this is outside the scope of this project, but there are contraflow bike lanes on Orchard Street and Charter Street that connect people from all the way from University Avenue, basically down to the Southwest commuter path, and then they just sort of end there. And I'm sure that the intersections with Regent Street are going to be disrupted a lot. Might you consider continuing those contraflow bike lanes from the commuter path to Regent Street, since a lot of people's destinations are not the path
So
itself, but Regent Street?
in between the commuter path and Regent Street here on these two?
On Orchard and Charter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think certainly is a possibility we could take a look at. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like it obviously it would probably require some on-street parking removal, but it could probably just be done with paint.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I think I could see some of our alternatives kind of creeping into the side streets, if we strip if we don't have peak hour lanes, but we need a left turn lane at intersections for instance, we might have to strip a little parking on one side, but maybe we could try to create something on side streets to help with that. So yeah, along those lines, I think especially stuff with paint is easy for us to think about.
Great. Thanks so much.
There's a question in the chat from Jocelyn about, is there an opportunity to manage or upgrade the power lines?
Oh, great question. We are talking with MG&E. That is an extremely expensive proposition. However, one of the challenges we have with the project, there are no trees really on Regent Street. So for design purpose, we don't have to like work around any existing trees, but we would like to certainly create a tree terrace. And so there's a lot of power lines on the north side of the street. There's the storm sewer box literally right underneath the sidewalk on the south side of the street. So that's why you don't, and there's not very much space. That's why there's no trees now. So we are talking with MG&E to see if there's any possibilities to kind of coordinate with a project like that. Still very early. One thing we did on Williamson Street in the past was put some conduits in the ground with the project so that can facilitate some of when things redevelop. It's kind of easy for them then to underground when a parcel develops. So we'll look at a couple of options. I don't think we'd be able to fund entirely like the undergrounding with the project. That's just a really great cost, but we'd like to set ourselves up that could be easier in the future.
All right. Larry.
Hi, thank you. Larry Barta from Traffic Analysis and Design. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Larry.
Good to see you again.
Yes, you too.
I'm gonna go back to the John Nolen discussion. I was just curious what you're gonna be doing to help all the drivers kind of negotiate the reduced capacity on John Nolen and higher capacities on the alternate routes that they'll be picking and choosing from for a couple of years of construction.
Yeah, great question. Tom has been watching the cameras very closely, and I think trying to help with signal timing as much as he could. We also are kind of banning any utility permits on alternate routes during this time frame, during any kind of peak hour situation. But I think mostly it's a lot of been Tom just kind of managing our cameras and looking at things and making adjustments. I don't know, Tom, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. So yeah, that first week was pretty rough. and things have definitely gotten better since then. And I think they're kind of evened out now. We are watching it every day. One thing we're looking at is Park Street. We have peak hour bus lanes right now, kind of between West Wash and Fish Hatchery or Fish Hatchery-ish on the southbound side, between Olin and West Wash on the northbound side. Um, so I think we're pretty close to implementing a southbound general peak hour lane because of the southbound queues that we've pretty consistently seen during the afternoon. Probably the biggest complaint that we've received so far is the lane closures on West Wash at the Southwest Path. So we're continuing to watch that and monitor travel times. And just so everyone knows, if you don't already, those lane closures were put in for added safety for the path users because of crashes between drivers and bikes at that path crossing where one driver would stop, yield for a bike, and then the driver in the adjacent lane, their vision of that bicyclist would be blocked by the yielding driver, and then they would drive into them. So that going down to one lane each direction there makes it quite a bit safer for path users. So right now what we're doing is watching that and, weighing the options of reopening to 2 lanes in each direction. How bad is the congestion backing into through other intersections? So that's the complaint that we're getting right now. It has gotten better. It is kind of random where travel times through there in the afternoon will be 3 or 4 minutes, and then you'll have a night where it's 10 minutes. Somewhat related to Kohl Center events, that's the other thing that's going on right now is, anytime there's a men's basketball game or a men's hockey game, that on a regular year, that increases overall congestion downtown during those times. So we're especially watching traffic during that. And then for the other routes, that's the big one is Park Street, West Washington Avenue has received a lot of the diverted traffic. On the Isthmus, it's more Gorham and Johnson have taken a lot of the diverted traffic from that side of town. East Washington Avenue, making sure the lanes are open there. But yeah, it's mostly signal timing on that side. We pretty much have all the lanes open that we can have. There's the apartment building project at between Bassett and Broome that has been in Gorham Street for the past couple weeks. They'll be getting out of there soon, next week. So that was a short-term project that's currently going on. But yeah, we're trying to limit as many of the other projects that get into the other streets as possible. And then yeah, signal timing. So that pretty much covers all the alternative routes, and we know this is going to be going on for a few years, so trying to keep this long term, thinking long term for all these. So
Thank you.
We had a question in the chat real quick, and then Chuck will get to you. Dave asked, are there any nearby City of Madison TID districts, existing or planned, that could fund project amenities along the Regent Street corridor?
Great question. There is, and we are utilizing that TID district to the fullest extent possible to help with funding of the project. But a big project like this, we also have a percent for art component that would come into play, and we'll be utilizing that and kind of working with the neighborhood to implement some art pieces potentially along the corridor.
All right. Chuck?
Thanks. This question is for Tom. Tom, do you have a sense of whether the delay that's caused by reducing the capacity of the street to one lane in each direction would be more or less than if you restored the road to two lanes in each direction, but actually had a traffic signal there, which would obviously increase the safety of path users?
Yeah, so we are moving forward with the traffic signal. Right now we're kind of being delayed because we have to coordinate with the railroad.
Mhm.
So right, what we were really hoping is that we can keep the one lane in each direction until we get that traffic signal operational. At one point, we were hoping that we could get it done by this fall, but that's just obviously didn't happen. And now we're working through the railroad, so we're hoping for early or late spring, early summer next year. But yeah, that's still up in the air. But right, if we get a signal there, that provides us a lot more flexibility with increasing flow through there.
Great.
Any other questions?
Stephanie, I have a quick one. As long as we have folks from the city here, Chris and Tom, I just want to give a very quick shout out to Jerry Shippa in City of Madison Traffic Engineering. I had a situation a couple of weeks ago where there was the ped bike crossing signal at Campus Drive in University near the UW-Madison Engineering campus had somehow gotten scrambled up, and it was literally giving about a 4 or 5 second crossing period. And I contacted Jerry, and he fixed it like that remotely.
Great.
So big shout out.
Good to hear. Good news. Matt?
Chris, I know you touched on this in the beginning when you were laying out the timeline, but can you just maybe in some more detail talk about the process for when you'll bring recommendations or alternatives to the public, and then how you'll get feedback and how you'll take that feedback and come back then to the neighborhood and the public with like final designs? Like, just if you can kind of elaborate more on that process.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we're kind of gathering all the feedback that our consultants put together. Staff is kind of reviewing it all. We're going to have a summary put together, reach back out to a few different groups, like the businesses, the neighborhood, and then also our transportation commission. And that will dovetail into our alternative selection. So based on that feedback and confirmation of that feedback, our next kind of big public meeting, I think, would be alternatives that we're looking at in spring, or not spring, as possibly the early as January, for a public meeting. Show some alternatives, then gain the feedback on that with those various groups as well. And it's kind of a little bit flexible after that. So if there's an obvious favorite alternative by the neighborhoods, the businesses, and the TC, then we're kind of in good shape. If there's not, then we'll have to work through that. So we'll kind of see how, after those alternatives and then after that feedback, how quickly it dovetails into final design. But we're hoping, by summertime, we're getting closer to that, chosen alternative, and then we can kind of move into final design. If that makes sense. So it's a little dependent on the alternatives and the feedback of the alternatives, how that process goes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And as you know, it's good for people to have something to chew on, and that's when you get, the more, I guess, the real reactions, because people have a kind of a mind, something in their mind's eye to understand like what it's going to be or what it potentially could be. So yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And one thing we're finding in the beginning of the alternatives is that what works for the west end of Regent Street might not be the same for the east end, right? There's a different dynamic over there with the hospitals and the Park Street and a little more traffic, versus, on the west end is more kind of business focused. So it may take us a little while to kind of develop the alternatives, even a little longer than we might think, but based on the feedback we've gotten so far.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Larry did add in the chat that there is a public involvement meeting to present and gather feedback on the Beltline Pell study on December 4th. Anything else for Chris and Tom?
Oh, sorry. Stephanie, could I get a quick announcement squeezed in if there's time?
Yes, go ahead, Christy.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure people saw that Bikes for Kids Wisconsin had announced our pilot program that we've been doing over the fall called Meals on Two Wheels, where we're providing a fleet of delivery riders on e-cargo bikes to deliver groceries from our food pantries to those who are homebound and cannot get to the food pantries. So it's been really exciting. We've gotten a bit of coverage on that. We're fundraising right now, and we're hoping to secure 4 e-cargo bikes and launch that fully in April. One of the things when you when you announce a new innovation, lots of surprises come up, and fortunately, most of them have been positive. And one of the big positive ones is we have a lot of delivery riders that want to deliver over the winter. So Christo, who was talking about winter biking, we definitely have a lot of that here. And so we'll have some consistent volunteering happening for that grocery delivery program over the winter as well.
All right. Thank you, Christy. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we're good. Jason, do you have anything else, Jason?
No,
from
just
DMI?
huge thanks to Chris and Tom for the excellent presentation and the information, the continued outreach to all of our groups. We're very, very thankful. So thank you all very much. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.